Hey guys, it's Danny. Well, another month has passed and it is time to look back and see the orchids that we had in bloom in the month of March. Again, we have a lot of them, 29, and there are more, but I'm gonna leave some for next month as well. Practically one orchid per day, which is the goal. It's what I've always strived to achieve, and finally I achieved it. P.S. If you do want to see an orchid per day from me, as much as possible, then follow me on Instagram. I post daily there as well, a new orchid every single day. And at the end of the month, of course, we have the recap on YouTube. So with that said, before we start, let's just first look back at last month and see who won, because we also do a voting based competition here to see which is the most popular orchid in your opinion. So last month the Trichopilia suavis won, which surprised and not surprised at the same time, because we also had the Gongora, which was a showstopper. But look at that, the Gongora is on the 3rd position behind the mini mark as well. So yeah, I am surprised, but I can see it. The Trichopilia is beautiful and I'm looking forward to growing more of these orchids and of course make some really nice care tutorials about them for you guys. But with that said, it is time to move on to the new orchids this month. Since there are so many, I'm not going to narrate over each and every one of them. Some of them I've talked about a lot already, but if you guys want a closer, more in-depth, let's say, type of a video about any of these orchids, do let me know in a comment below and I might actually do a shorts video. Yeah, YouTube came up with a new type of video called shorts. It's still in beta. I'm gonna give it a go. It's practically a short type of video, but it's kind of separated from the normal videos. So I can do that. I can also do a short video for Facebook. Just let me know which one you'd like me to talk a little bit more about. Alrighty, so with that long intro out of the way, don't forget to give this video a like, a share, a comment. That helps a lot. And why not subscribe? I post 3 times a week. All right, on with the orchid show. I think I'm gonna start with the Tolumnias this month. So first of all, we have the Tolumnia Jairak White, which has bloomed before, but I have to say it's one of the prettiest Tolumnias that I have. You guys know I love contrast, and that beautiful dark spotting on a white background to me looks like a Dalmatian, which is a breed of dogs I've always wanted to have as a kid. So seeing this flower reminds me of that time, and I don't know, kind of makes me feel good, which is weird. But I have to say it is quite a unique Tolumnia in my collection, since it doesn't have any of the most common colors like pink, red, orange, yellow, any of that. Its beauty relies in its simplicity, in my opinion. Now, of course, all Tolumnias are beautiful, and I want to have as many hybrids as possible, even NoIDs. Most of these hybrids actually are the Jairak hybrids. I see on the market there are 2 main, let's say, nurseries or hybridizers. First, it's the line called Genting, which has quite a few very popular hybrids, but also it's the Jairak, which has 3 types of hybrids: Jairak Firm, Jairak Flyer, and Jairak Rainbow. I feel like the Jairak Rainbows are beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna show you one which is my current favorite, and it's this one, the Tolumnia Jairak Rainbow Red Sun. Now, funnily enough, this is one of those Tolumnias that I got from that seller in Germany a couple of years ago. It did not have a tag. I just got it as a bunch that lost their tags, and what do you know? I am 100% sure it is the Red Sun. It looks identical, and the seller actually did have the Red Sun as well. So probably this one just lost its label, so he put it in the unlabeled pile, and I happen to receive it. I'm so happy. Just look at it. It's red. Of course I love it. By the way, Tolumnias are not known for their fragrance. I have yet to encounter a fragrant Tolumnia, although I have heard rumors that there are some fragrant ones out there. If I find one, you're gonna be the first ones to know. Then we have the Renanthera monachica, which is one of my favorites. Man, I should stop saying that. All of my orchids are my favorites. I guess that kind of sums it up. But the monachica holds a lot of history for me because I tried to grow this one a long time ago. Didn't work out so great, but only because I had a sick individual. Then I ordered this one, and look at her, blooming every single year without fail, looking wonderful and just growing without giving me headaches. Not even a pest on it ever. Can you believe that? I just love this orchid. What's there not to love though? Speaking about the monachica, here is her child. This is the Renanthopsis Mildred Jameson. I think we can see the resemblance, but also there's a lot of Phalaenopsis influence in this orchid as well. Yet another crown jewel in my collection. This one I cannot say she's growing without headaches. I've had her in the past, I lost her, makes me still a little nervous, but so far so good, so I guess I don't have reasons to complain. But if you look at the orchid, you can see part of the stem is dried. It kind of arrived like that as far as I remember when I purchased it, but I always live in fear of stem rot. At some point I need to repot it this year, so I'm gonna cut away that stem and hopefully I'm not gonna be so nervous looking at it. Next up, my first red Vanda. Can you tell I like red and orange? Yeah, but this one is something special. I have always dreamed of having a red Vanda, and I do actually have quite a few. This is the first one to bloom for me, and I cannot be happier. It does not have a fragrance though. I thought, looking at the shape, that it will be fragrant, but it's not. Anyway, it is so red and beautiful that the camera does not do it justice. I don't even care about the fragrance at this point. It is my very first red Vanda, and it fills my heart with joy. Let's move on to some Phalaenopsis, shall we? We have the summer bloomers. The normal ones are starting to bloom as well, but I'm gonna leave all of them for next month. They're gonna clutter the next month. Anyway, so let's start with a surprise. This is Phalaenopsis Reef, which only produced one little flower, which is fine. It's a small orchid, pretty young, and I do see that it is the first time it blooms. The flower itself, nothing to write home about in comparison to other summer bloomers, but the fragrance. You guys, this one is kind of competing with the Bellina and with the Violacea. It has a fragrance somewhere in between the two. It is a little bit fruity, it is also sweet, and it is quite powerful. In my opinion, summer bloomers are super beautiful, but we kind of always expect them to have a fragrance, and not all of them deliver. Yes, they do have a faint scent that is kind of fruity, but really, in my opinion, nothing compares to the Bellina and the Violacea. Well, this one does, and I'm super happy to have it because when I open my Milspo cabinet, it smells like paradise in there, no joke. Now, another Phalaenopsis that I am extremely happy with, mainly because it looks like the picture in the listing, is the Phalaenopsis Special Ruby. The name is a little bit longer than that, but you can see it in the tag. This one is not fragrant, or it might have a scent, but again, in comparison, it absolutely cannot compare. So I'm just gonna call it not fragrant, or rather not perfumey. Nothing to write home about, but look at that pattern and look at the color combo. I find it so wild and beautiful. When I purchased this orchid and I saw the listing picture, I googled it and I saw there weren't many pictures of this orchid on the internet. I thought, oh, well, that's an orchid that probably won a prize and all of the others don't look so good. It happens, especially when you obtain a new hybrid from seed, you don't clone it. So I wasn't really expecting this one to look very much like the pictures, but it absolutely does, and I could not be happier. I love it. I love the pattern. Don't know what else to say. I just really like this one. I'm so happy to have it. Then we have another super beautiful orchid, which is a staple for any Phalaenopsis collection. It is the schilleriana. If you remember, my mother plant had an issue which I could never identify, but I managed to save a keiki from my orchid, and this is that keiki. Slowly and surely it is growing, and this year it has quite a nice flower spike. But not only, the flowers smell much better this year. They absolutely are highly noticeable. I like to keep it on my desk. Probably you've seen it in my videos because I like to look at it when I film and I like to smell it when I film. And actually, I pinpointed what this orchid reminds me of. It is a plant that we had a lot in Romania. I grew up with it and with the fragrance. I'll put it on the screen. I forgot the name of it. But yeah, I find that the schilleriana smells identical to this plant. So if you have it in your country or if you've ever smelled it, that's how the schilleriana schilleriana smells like. Is it chickpea? I don't remember. It's a particular type. Not all of them are fragrant, but this particular one is fragrant. So yeah, that's how the schilleriana smells like to me. If you know what I'm talking about, let me know in a comment below. Next up, we have what should be the crown jewel, I guess, of this month, but it really isn't. This is Dendrobium aphyllum, and yeah, it really is that beautiful. It is an orchid I purchased a few months ago that I managed to get through the dormancy, and now it's blooming. And it is very impressive. It's, ooh, a storm is kind of brewing outside. If you hear the thunder, don't worry, we're all sheltered. Okay, so yes, it was a wonderful show. Just take a look at this picture so you can get a scale of how big this orchid is. But I didn't want to make such a big fuss about it because I wasn't the one that obtained this flowering. Since I purchased it just a few months ago, obviously the growing season was not spent with me. Yes, it was beautiful, but you know what? I'm gonna feel much better, and I'm gonna make much more of a splash with it next year when I grow it through the whole vegetative season and I make it bloom and it looks okay in my setup. If you remember, this is the orchid that we repotted last time. It was growing on the pot. I didn't want people to get the wrong idea that you can obtain this show by mounting an orchid on a pot. You could, but it's not very viable in a home. So yeah, I wasn't very happy with that aspect of it. I didn't feel good about it. That's why I didn't make a splash about it, but it was really beautiful. Probably I'm gonna talk much more about it next year when I rebloom it myself. Then we have a little oopsie. This is Paphiopedilum maudiae coloratum, which looked beautiful for a little while until I managed to break the flower. But what I did was I placed the flower in a little jar. Sadly, I didn't have a lot of stem together with it, so it looks a little bizarre, I'm aware. But I wanted to save the flower because it was beautiful and it actually lasted for about 2 weeks in water. So I did enjoy it to some extent. But yeah, sadly I broke the flower. I waited a year for the flower and then I broke it. I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, so don't worry. It happened to me a ton of time, particularly because I can be a little bit clumsy sometimes. I have my days. So yeah, it happens, but I still enjoyed the flower. This month also brought the first rebloom of the Aliceara Snowblind ever since we rescued it. And would you look at that? The flowers are much bigger than when I purchased this orchid. She is doing great growing out of her pot. I need to repot it because she's getting very dehydrated very fast. I cannot keep up with her watering, but other than that, she's doing great and the flowers are as big as my palm. So very happy with how she's behaving. She's one of those Alicearas which is very vigorous in comparison to others. I'm looking at you, imaginary Marfitch, Howard Stream. So yeah, definitely recommend it if you ever see it. She's a big girl, but if you have the space, I believe you will be very happy growing it. Now we have a whole lot of Cattleyas. Some of them I'm not going to talk about, but let's just start with the Cattleya Gold Digger, which is one of my oldest Cattleyas. I had her for 6 years, maybe 5-6 years at this point. I did divide her a lot. I also cut away some affected portions, affected by Fusarium that is, when I moved to my new country, so that's why it's a little tiny, but she is getting there. She only blooms once a year for me, at least up until now, but she has a kind of nice orangey type of fragrance, very, very mild, but I really, really like orange fragrances. Now the Vanagara Apple Blossom Yellow, I believe, needs a little bit of a repotting and a little bit of a dividing, in the sense that I need to cut away the older growths, because the newer growths are on the edge of the pot. She's growing outside of the pot, and that's not okay. She's getting, would you mind, a little bit too big for the active growths it has. So I will clean it up from the older growths, and hopefully it's gonna look a little bit more compact, because now it's kind of blooming and budding only on the edge of the pot. It's a little rambly, but I do really enjoy it. But just look how different it looks like from the original Vanagara, which is going to bloom probably in 2 months as well. I have that one as well. It has much smaller flowers, but it does smell the same, and it is yellow. And the last orchid I'm going to show you is my specimen, the second specimen that I purchased. This one I was really looking forward to make a video with and show you how I would go about a big Cattleya specimen, but it has a lot of dead growth in the center. It has a lot of unhealthy parts. I need to kind of chop it off. So it's not going to be a specimen anymore, but it managed to bloom, which is nice. I wasn't expecting it. But I really need to get to it and clean it up and offer it a better pot, obviously, and get rid of all that growth in the middle that isn't healthy anymore. So I will make a separate video for it. But if you were wondering whatever happened to these specimens, well, there you go. One of them, I was waiting for the springtime to repot, the Dendrobium, and this one has a lot of issues, sadly. So stay tuned for a video with this Cattleya. I'm happy that I see her little flowers. And with that said, this has been the Orchid Show for the month of March. Don't forget that you have links down below to the straw poll where you can vote for your favorite one. And with these favorites, I'm having some plans for the future. You're gonna see. So if you do have some time, do please visit the link and vote for your favorite one. Also, I'll remind you that you can leave me a comment with what orchid you would like to see a separate, let's say, spotlight type of a video on, and I'll try to make it. And with that said, thank you so much for joining. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and I hope you have a great weekend. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!